Namaste, dear devotees. Welcome to today's discourse, dated March 26th. Shri Brahmachaitanya Maharaj enlightens us with a crucial lesson. Sensuous pleasures are neither real nor lasting. Many of us seek happiness in material possessions, status, and sensory indulgence, yet these pleasures are fleeting and ultimately unsatisfying. Maharaj reminds us that true joy lies in God alone. Let us reflect on this wisdom and explore how we can transcend the temporary and embrace the eternal. Howsoever great a man may be in this world, there is always something wanting in his life. We may occasionally come across a person who asserts that his life lacks nothing, but even so he has the anxious desire that the status quo should be undisturbed, which means that he is not really happy. There may also be a person engrossed in sensuous pleasures or pursuits who appears to be carefree. A drunken person may not care whether he is naked or clothed, may even defy or challenge the king, but only so long as he is under intoxication. Sensuous pleasures depend on transient sensuous objects that may leave us someday, or our senses may become weak, or we may die. And who will enjoy such pleasures if he is conscious of death, which is bound to claim him someday? That abundance of pleasurable things makes for abundant pleasure is an obvious misconception. Real happiness is that which is everlasting. It can only be found with God, who is himself eternal. Sensuous pleasure is available to beast as well as to man. What then distinguishes man from beast? It is the faculty which enables man to think on the fundamentals of life, such as what he really is, and what the purpose of his life is. In everyday worldly matters we think of gains and losses, but they pertain to a world which is itself impermanent. How can such thinking lead us to the truth? We do not try and learn to be contented in the situation in which God has placed us, and crave for better circumstances which, we imagine, will make us happy. Even our devoutness to God and submission to saints is, overtly or covertly, for some worldly objective. Isn't such devotion or submission an attempt to exploit God or a saint for a mundane purpose? Even superstitions we twist and interpret to suit our wish and convenience. For instance, if a cat crosses the path, we turn back, interpreting it as God's premonition that our mission will not succeed. But if one wife dies, the husband does not interpret this as God's hint, but begins to think of marrying again. In short, to secure worldly pleasures is our aim, and we exert ourselves only for that purpose. Truly, a man who does not introspect on his experiences in worldly life can never become wise. Personal reflection. The story of Sant Gyaneshwar and true happiness. Sant Gyaneshwar, the revered saint of Maharashtra, beautifully demonstrated the impermanence of worldly pleasures and the eternal joy of divine connection. Once a wealthy merchant came to him, boasting about his luxurious life and how he had everything one could desire: wealth, comfort, and fame. Sant Gyaneshwar smiled and asked, "Tell me, are you truly happy?" The merchant hesitated, realizing that despite his riches, his heart was always restless. He feared losing his wealth. He was anxious about his business, and he always craved more. The saint then narrated a parable. A man was walking through a forest when a wild tiger began chasing him. In desperation, he clung to the roots of a tree hanging over a deep pit. As he held on, he saw two mice, one black and one white, slowly gnawing at the roots. Above him, a beehive dripped a little honey. In his fear, he licked the drops of honey, momentarily enjoying its sweetness, even though his life was hanging by a thread. Sant Gyaneshwar explained, "The tiger represents death, always chasing us. The pit is the uncertainty of life, and the black and white mice are time, day and night, slowly eroding our existence. The honey is the temporary pleasures of the world, which distract us from the ultimate reality." The merchant was deeply moved and asked, "Then where is true happiness?" Sant Gyaneshwar replied, "True happiness is not in these fleeting drops of honey, but in surrendering to God, who alone is eternal." The merchant renounced his attachment to wealth and lived a life of devotion, finding the peace he had never known before. This aligns with Maharaj's teaching. We must not chase fleeting pleasures but seek eternal joy in God's remembrance. Shri Brahmachaitanya Maharaj reminds us that sensuous pleasures are temporary, but divine joy is eternal. Like Sant Gyaneshwar's parable, we are all clinging to fragile roots while being distracted by fleeting pleasures. Instead of craving for material gains, let us turn inward, surrender to God, and seek true, lasting happiness in devotion. Let us reflect. Are we chasing worldly pleasures like the drops of honey? Or are we seeking the eternal bliss of God's presence? By practicing nama-smarana, detachment and surrender, we can transcend temporary joys and experience divine contentment. May we all turn our hearts towards the everlasting joy of God's love. Jai Shri Ram.